I'm Christopher Powell, English teacher at Orchard Park Secondary School, here to instruct you a little bit today on how to prepare to write a series of opinion paragraphs in order to successfully complete the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test. As with many of the other sections on the literacy test, one of the things that you're going to have to keep in mind as you write your series of opinion paragraphs is that you are going to be awarded a score. The score on this will range, like with the news story, up to a score of 60. Again, it's important to note that topic development is incredibly important for this selection. The scorers are going to be looking to see that you have used the space that has been allotted for this series of paragraphs and that you have remained on topic and have successfully developed and supported all of the ideas that you put forth. Let's take a look at some examples that students have submitted on a literacy test. The first one that you can see here, in response to the question, "Are cell phones necessary in teenagers' lives?" does actually express an opinion. Unfortunately, it's one sentence, and even that sentence is not properly written. Obviously, this isn't going to earn you a great score because it doesn't really develop any ideas. You would get some marks, surprisingly, just for the fact that you have actually answered the question. This obviously, though, is not the sort of mark that you're going to be shooting for. The second example, significantly better. One of the things that is important to note here, first and foremost, it's too short. The people who are scoring the literacy test don't want for you to ramble, which means that they don't want you to fill the space just with additional undeveloped or underdeveloped ideas. What they want to see is organization and idea development. So it is important to note that this person has introduced ideas, but doesn't ever actually support them. Your English teachers are going to be telling you to make sure that you use the point, proof, explain developmental style. Now, teachers might use different words for it, but it is all essentially the same idea. You introduce an idea, you support that idea with some sort of proof or an example, and then you explain why those bits of information are relevant to a more central idea. The central idea for this example is to support the claim that cell phones are or are not important in teenagers' lives. Let's take a look now at the last example. This one receives a mark of 60, or a code of 60, on the literacy test. Even just at a casual glance, you can see that there's a significant amount of additional information here compared to the other two that we've seen. We see that this student has developed thoughts, they're using punctuation, they're supporting ideas with additional details and relevant information. Again, it's not perfect, but it certainly demonstrates much more mastery of basic English skills and topic development in order to receive a better score on the literacy test. So how does a student get here? One of the things to remember when you're writing a series of opinion paragraphs for the literacy test, first and foremost, be very clear about what your central idea is. It's going to ask you a question and demand that you take a position. You want to make sure that you state very early on what your opinion is on the topic that you've been given. Don't waffle. Don't change your opinion partway through. Don't decide to argue for both sides of the question. This isn't a matter of trying to see whether or not you can express two opinions. It's wanting to see whether or not you can express one. Make sure that you remember that. Again, like most of the other examples that we've gone over in these videos, make sure that you use the space that you've been given. It gives you almost 2 pages of lines with which to write this series of paragraphs. Use that space. Another important detail worth remembering. The question itself is going to ask for you to write at least 3 paragraphs. Many students write only 3. The problem that sometimes occurs is that many students writing only 3 will write a very short introductory paragraph, 1 paragraph which actually develops ideas, and then a short concluding paragraph. Only one of those paragraphs is actually developing the idea that you've been asked to develop. Essentially, what the literacy test is asking for you to do is to write an essay. If you want to write an introductory paragraph and a concluding paragraph, those should probably be in addition to the 3 developed paragraphs that you're going to write. That way you can ensure that you have specifically developed enough ideas to warrant getting the full score for this section of the literacy test. You can be more successful by exceeding the minimal expectations that have been set out for you. It is also important to remember, regardless of whether you want to do any additional paragraphs, that you do introduce and conclude your thoughts. Other ideas to remember as you're going through this section of the literacy test: make sure that your ideas are clearly organized. Make sure that you have indented or somehow clearly indicated where one paragraph ends and the next one begins. Take a little bit of time to proofread your work as well. You're going to want to make sure that you have eliminated any confusing grammatical or spelling mistakes that could limit the effectiveness of the communication of your thoughts. Make sure also that you use transitional words. If the person who is scoring the literacy test for you can clearly see where one idea ends and the next one begins because of your effective use of transitional words and phrases, it's only going to help the effectiveness of the communication of the thoughts in this series of paragraphs.